All right, let's get to the topic at hand right now. We are talking wine country recipes, all from the mind of Brigit. It is the new Wine Country Cookbook. You'll see it at a number of wineries in the Paso Robles area as you go wine tasting. It's a beautiful book, well laid out, with a lot of history from the area. And then mixed in between all of this history are some fantastic recipes that really highlight the flavor of the Central Coast. And Brigit joins us in studio right now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Randall.
Yeah, and how exciting. The other day you sent me the little note that you were front page on HuffPost Food.
I'm a lucky girl, I tell you.
HuffPost Food is one of the main sources for food news nowadays. You probably saw a big boost in web traffic that day, huh?
I have sworn to myself not to check my ranking on Amazon Daily.
That's hard to do. When you're doing well, it's fun to go in there. At last check, did you see? Were you on there?
It went from 67 to number 8 in food and wine.
Because of the HuffPost?
Definitely.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Number 8. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting here in our studio, our humble Eat, Drink, Explore, Market Fresh studio.
Where else would I want to be?
Well, you have a heavy Central Coast focus in this book. And I imagine since we are such foodies here on the Central Coast, no matter where you live in the country, you want to be a part of it. And I imagine your sales are good countrywide?
I think of it as a regional book.
Uh-huh.
You know, I've done a lot of national books before, but this is where I want to be right now, and I'd like my book to be here too. I don't know. We'll see.
You wanted to highlight your home, right?
I did.
And so you're married to Casey Biggs. As a lot of people listening right now will know him as the Paso Wine Guy or the Paso Wine Dude, and with those really funny spots that they put together up there.
He's a funny guy.
He's really funny. And I have to say, Adam Montiel's bit when he was running for Slow Ambassador, Casey had a cameo on that I just thought was hysterical.
That was funny.
But so he's an East Coast guy, right?
Well, that's the whole issue, isn't it, Randall?
Yeah, and so it's East Coast, West Coast.
I'm trying to lure him out here. I wrote a book. I cook great stuff. You know, he'll be here sooner or later.
Do you guys flash gang signs at each other when you meet East Coast, West Coast, when you guys meet up?
Yes, indeed.
And so yeah, what a busy couple. And so now you've written this cookbook, and tell me your inspiration behind it. Clearly, it comes from your roots.
Well, I spent a lot of time as a kid. I grew up in Southern California, and I spent a lot of time on the Hollister Ranch when I was growing up. But then, you know, it got sold, and that wasn't a possibility anymore. And I think ever since then, living in Europe, living in New York, living in Oregon, I've always been trying to get back to that sensibility.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anywhere else in the world ever that has it other than the Central Coast. And
people say that all the time, that it is like a throwback. We haven't been tainted yet, you know?
You know, I call it Tuscany with cowboys.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good description, actually.
Well, you've got all these wonderful things to eat. You've got, maybe they don't have avocados in Tuscany, but look what we have. We have radicchio and olives and olive oil, and we have wine, and we have fantastic fish, and we have artichokes, and it doesn't get any better than this. And yet, it's a real place, and that's why there's a turquoise pickup truck on the cover of the book.
I love it. In fact, for those people that are watching online via Eat, Drink, Explore right now, you can see on our video simulcast a cover of the book. I love the pickup, and this pickup exists at a local winery.
It does. It's up at Dubost Ranch, they're just wonderful people, wonderful wine. And, you know, the publisher didn't love that cover. They said, well, can you go back and reshoot it with a picnic basket and a glass of wine? And I said, y'all aren't getting this.
I love when you can say that to a publisher and they still publish your book.
Well, they don't always listen, but
right.
I was lucky enough to get it pushed through, and it attracts attention. People say, what's that? Why do you have a pickup truck on a cookbook? I said, because this is not Napa.
Right.
This is the Central Coast, and we're close to our dusty roots.
Yeah, this is Napa 40 or 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, although we have the current technology with us to make fantastic world-class wines here, so it's unlike Napa that way, but the rustic feel is here. And like you were saying, Tuscany with cowboys, I always think of it as Mediterranean. We've got the typical Mediterranean climate and foods with a mixture of Western and Latin America coming up. So we have, like you said, the avocados and the salsas and the spicy and the pinquito beans and all that.
And this is, I think, more radicchio is grown in California than anywhere else in
right?
the world. Yeah, it's a major crop here, and how delicious. Have you ever cooked radicchio?
I haven't, and it's a superfood. It was just
Yummy.
listed as a superfood recently. We had somebody on the show to talk about that. Let's talk about a couple of your recipes in here that you have. You really focus on a lot of different things. You can have anything from a full main course, but also some like starter salads and all that sort of thing.
Well, I think a lot of people in this region entertain at home a lot because they collect good wines, and so they want to show them off. And so I did a huge chapter in the beginning called Magic Hour Grazing, with lots of little snacky things. Some are easy, some are more involved. Mostly they're really easy, like roasted potatoes and chorizo on a skewer. I mean, you pop that now. You've encouraged your red wine, and also raw oysters with a Sauvignon Blanc and saffron granitas.
I saw that.
I mean, it's so easy. You just put the wine and the saffron in the freezer, stir it up with a fork, and then plop it on top of your raw oysters. Oh, so deliciously cool.
I'm a mostly vegan, but what vegans lack is B12. Oysters and clams are incredibly high in B12, and they also don't have a brain or a very well-developed central nervous system. So vegans can feel a little bit better about,
Nice.
There's a lot of debate in that community regarding it, but I'm one of those that will eat the shellfish, and so I saw that in there, and I thought, that sounds good. I have your marker that came with the book that I slid in for the Israeli couscous salad with almonds, blood oranges, and Greek olives. We're in olive country here, and like we mentioned at the top of the show, almonds, 2 billion pounds of them will be made in California.
And that's why that dish is in there. And actually, that dish was featured in Food and Wine Best of Recipes of the Year.
Really?
Yeah.
And all of these recipes are yours?
They are all mine. There are books where people go out and talk to the wineries and get, Aunt Charlotte's best potato salad, but this wasn't that. For me, it was, I developed recipes for Williams-Sonoma and Weber Grills, and that's what I love to do. And be confronted with the bounty of this county, how could I not do it?
The bounty of the county. I love that. It sounds like a Kenny Rogers song or something. I don't know. I like that a lot. All right. Since the Central Coast is known for its grilling, I mean, in a moment, Brigit, if you'll be sitting here for a few more minutes, it'll waft in eventually. The smells of the farmer's market will come up here, and you'll smell that tri-tip and the corn. What's your favorite grill piece in here?
I have to say it's the grilled lobster with Syrah butter.
With Syrah butter? Mm-hmm. So does Syrah mix with butter? How do you make that happen?
Well, you reduce your wine down with some shallots until it's kind of syrupy. Takes about 15 minutes, and let it cool, and then you just beat it into some softened butter. Now you have Syrah butter. And I was told by a winemaker up in Paso, Stefan Aseo of L'Aventure, that Syrah goes really well with shellfish. And I was like, really? Okay, try that. But if you can drink Syrah with shellfish, why can't you just eat Syrah with shellfish?
Isn't that a good point? I like that. Do you incorporate wine into, since it is a wine country cookbook, do you incorporate it into a lot of the recipes featured?
Absolutely, Randall. I call it wine friendly and wine inclusive cooking.
We want to be wine inclusive, yes.
Always.
And so what do you find works better, whites or reds when cooking? I use a lot of white wine when cooking. I only use red because red has such a large color variant, color factor. I feel like the dish needs to be dark to begin with before I'll use the reds. But how do you
agree.
feel?
It could be unappetizing in certain dishes.
And so I've done that where it really makes it's about visual also.
Well, you must always think about eating it with your eyes first before you eat it with your mouth. But I think there are many recipes where the red wine does do well. Usually it's braises and it might be with pork, but you can also put white wine with pork. But I think that the lobster with the Syrah butter is a great example of, you could also do salmon with the Syrah butter.
Oh, yeah.
Salmon and red wine are very happy together.
My mouth is watering. Like, seriously, that always happens when you bring someone on that wrote a cookbook, right? I mean,
it's a dangerous business.
That's the whole purpose, exactly. The new Wine Country Cookbook, number 8 on Amazon right now. Recipes from California's Central Coast. Author Brigit Binns, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
and
you.
It's Brigit Binns, that's with 2 N's.com, BRIGITBINNS.com. We have a link at Eat, Drink, Explore under today's program summary. We link you directly to the book page of her website, but I encourage you to look through her entire website because there's a lot of great information there. Brigit, thank you again.